Hey, Coach, congratulations on number 500.
Thank
Um,
you.
so I wanted to ask what you thought about Mercer's backcourt and how they were able to slow your guards down. And at halftime, were you concerned that Zaya and Destiny, neither one had scratched the scoreboard at that point? And then second, talk about Zaya in the second half, because I really thought she showed some maturity and she got on track, but she also didn't force anything. Can you talk about that and your expectations for the backcourt coming up against Oregon State? Thanks.
Um, Concerned? No. I mean, I thought what what Mercer did was they they played percentages. If they took our two guards and they denied them the ball and denied them touches, it would increase their chances of disrupting us and putting themselves in a position to win the basketball game. Um, it actually got Victoria going, so that was a pretty good strategy on our part, to have V, because V hasn't really been playing all that well, making layups and scoring in double figures. But she found her way to the rim. She found, her mid-range shot was going in. So if you take, one thing away, you're gonna create a mismatch somewhere else. And we made them pay for it. As far as, Zaya did show a lot of maturity. I think Zaya sometimes feels like, she relies too heavily on her scoring, that she doesn't have an appreciation for the other aspects of her game, like passing the ball, and being a decoy. I mean, sometimes you got to be a decoy and make them forget about you, so you can impact the game in somewhere else. I thought we probably put the ball in her hands a little bit more in the second half, so we created opportunities for her to take expected shots, and she did just that. So, was it alarming? No. I mean, no, it was that type of game in which, they took things away from us, and we had to we had to go to the next person in line, and we did that.
David and then Greg.
Hey, Dawn, thanks for doing this. Hope you're well. You mentioned last night the funky lineup during the second quarter there, where you sat down all your bigs and kind of went with more speed. Was that something that you had worked on over the past 2 weeks since you knew Lily wasn't going to be able to come back, or was that just kind of how the game was flowing?
No, I mean, we've been working on it. We've been working on moving Anaya and playing small ball with her at the four. And defensively, it just didn't work out for us. I think that is probably where it hurt us the most. And it just takes some time. I know you visualize it as a coach and you see some of the great things that you're doing in practice, but then it's a big transition in the game. This isn't, this isn't like little league. This is actual people teams that can really play, and they will capitalize on you having mismatches in certain areas. And Mercer did that to us.
Greg and then Joe.
Just looking ahead to Oregon State, they're a pretty big roster that, bring a lot of length. What do you think the biggest challenge on that side is going to be?
Ball screen defense, big time. I mean, they're very calculated and super calculated. There's no fat in their offense. You either gonna guard it, you're gonna guard their initial option. If you don't guard the initial option, they're gonna take it all the way to the basket. If you guard that initial, they got counters to that, and they got counters to their counters. So we have to put ourselves in a position where we're not triggering a lot of help. If you trigger a lot of help and they get ahead of the possession, they're going to get a clean look. And no matter if it's at the basket or outside the three, they're going to knock it down. So we got it. We got a tough matchup on our hands, but we got to utilize our speed. Get down the floor, play in transition, play downhill on them, get shots up at the basket, and force them to play on the other side of the ball, because they're going to force us to play defensively.
Joe and then Mitch.
Coach, I know it's the same for you and many other teams, but getting that one game under your belt, how do you think that helps the team moving forward? I know you mentioned yesterday that it looked a little winded early on. So the one day in between, does it feel more normal? Do you feel a little bit more comfortable with your team taking the floor tomorrow, just knowing you had that game, you got under your belt, and you're moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it was good to play it. It was good to be able to play different lineups. It was good to be able to get up and down the floor and just open our lungs up to playing and recalibrating, because we had been off for a long time, since we were one of the first conferences to play. I mean, you're gonna have to play no matter what. We got ourselves in a tough matchup with Oregon State, and luckily that wasn't the first game, because they looked like they were hitting on all cylinders.
Mitch and then David.
Coach, I'm curious. I mean, obviously people are seeing it at the national level now, and they've been able to see it throughout the season, but we've been watching it the last 2 seasons. Bree Beal, is she the most unbothered, unexpressive player that you've ever coached? How does she stay that even keel out there in tense moments?
That's her makeup. Bree is the oldest in her family. And she's got some younger siblings that she's always in control, so if you ever seen her little brothers, they can get at it. But Bree's the calm in the family, and you can see her maturity out there on the floor. I mean, you can see it in practice. And she was, I was watching her, and she was kind of explaining to Anaya things that she needed to do while she's guarding her. And while Anaya was guarding her, she's telling her how to play her and what we need to do as a team. So it's cool. I mean, it's, I feel very comfortable knowing that Bree's on our side, and we don't have to play against her.
David and then Rachel.
Donna's very off topic here, but I was kind of wondering about some of the outfits you've worn this season. You had the T-shirt last night with the different coaches' names. You've worn a WNBA hoodie. You had your high school jersey. Do you come up with those and someone designs them for you? Do people ship them to you? I'm just kind of wondering how the process goes about how it gets from whoever to you, and then you decide to wear them during the game.
I mean, some people send me stuff, and some is just me. My high school jersey, I got, I got as a housewarming gift to put up in my house, and I got a couple other jerseys that I'll probably wear if we're here long enough. I'm gonna pull them all out, because after I wear them, they're gonna go up in my house and never to be worn again. So I mean, I like cool pieces. I tried to support some Black local businesses and Black owned businesses of people I know across the country, because I know they got hit big by COVID, and I wanted to just kind of support them in that way.
Rachel and then Greg.
Coach, thanks so much for taking the time. There was a report in the Wall Street Journal today about how the NCAA owns the trademark for March Madness, but has refused to let the women's tournament use it. They're now saying that they might consider that in the future. What are your thoughts on the NCAA's refusal to let the women use it thus far, and the potential to use it in the future?
I mean, it's the way things have been, and finally, it takes just a dark cloud over our tournament for things to change, and I hope we continue to we got to continue to just let it be known, the disparities, that we're feeling here. And, we're talking about student athletes. We're not talking about men's, women's. It's student athletes when it's all said and done. And everybody should feel like they are experiencing the most exciting and the most luxurious times of their career. We worked hard, just as hard, through a pandemic as anybody else. Not even this year. This isn't a 1 year thing. This this is happening all, every year for its existence. And we don't have to have everything the same. Trust me, because the things that guys like, women may not like, but we do need a personal touch. If you're going to make it personal for them, then you should make it personal to the women's tournament. And what that is, I don't know, but certainly you got to talk to the student athletes because it's not right. And I'm going to take it a step further. When me as a coach and anybody in our program commits a violation, an NCAA violation, right?
Mhm.
There's an immediate investigation, right?
Mhm.
And then if it's a big one, then the school becomes investigated, right? Right? And then there's a thing called lack of institutional control, and we're penalized for that.
Mhm.
When they feel like there's not a whole lot of control taking place, and then you get dinged, right?
Mhm.
They take postseason away, they take scholarships away, they take, recruiting days away. And then, me as the head coach, if it's my program, then something happens to me. Games are taken away, you can get fined, you're definitely getting a letter in your file. Definitely. So something's got to happen. Something has to happen. So I'll leave it there. Rules are rules and investigations are investigation. Let's go see. Let's do what you do to every institution that you deem broke a rule.
Just a quick follow-up, do you think anyone at the NCAA needs to be held responsible or resign?
Somebody needs to be held responsible. I don't know who, but we did need to find the investigative work needs to be done to see, where things had fallen short. Because that's what happens to each institution that's under the NCAA.
Thank you.
All right, I think this is all going to stay on topic, so I'm going to go to Patrick and then Alex. Just so we don't have to go bounce back and forth, Coach.
I got you.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to congratulate you on 500 wins. I read what you said. To you, it sounds like right now the big deal is to get to 501 and to continue through the tournament. But what does it mean to you, though, to see people, to see the overwhelming amount of respect and support that people have been paying to you on social media, on different things? How does that make you feel?
I mean, I don't like the spotlight on me at all. I really don't. I'm a person that I like to stay in my lane. I like to, I don't like confrontation. I really don't. People may think I like that, but I don't like confrontation. I don't like the spotlight. I do feel like people see me as, like one of them. Like I feel like I feel like people feel like I'm like the, around the way girl or woman. I think they see me as one of them and not like a superstar or anything like that, because I don't present myself that way. Never have. I just, my mom instilled humility in me, and I just continue to walk that path. And people respect that, and they do show a lot of love, and it makes me feel good.
Alex
thank
and
you.
then Greg.
Hey there, thanks so much for taking the time. Following up on something that you said a minute ago, you used the term "a dark cloud over our tournament." And I guess I'm curious to get your thoughts on, there's a difference, right, between playing with these types of conditions that have been highlighted and playing with them without having the media spotlight on them. And I'm curious for you, like, just what it feels like to have seen some of the disparities throughout time and not had the spotlight on them in the same way that they have in the same attention that they've gotten this year.
I mean, what you don't know, you don't know. So, for so many years, and I've been a part of this tournament for a lot of years in college, as a coach at Temple, and now a coach at South Carolina. When it's your first time going through it, you're really just happy to be here. You don't really see anything different because you're just happy to be here. And then if you talk to some other coaches that have done this for 30 years, they know there's a big difference. And here's the thing, we're coaches. We got a community, men's and women. Like we talk a great deal to each other, to see, what's happening out there. I like the fact that the light is shining on both tournaments, in a good and a bad way. So we can see what needs to happen to move our tournament forward and to ensure that our student athletes, our female student athletes are getting what they deserve, because they talk as well. And they know what their counterparts are getting, from the swag bags to what they get per diem. They know exactly what each other are getting. And when it's different, we have to answer those questions. They bring the questions to us, and what am I supposed to say to them?
Can I ask a follow-up?
Go ahead.
You just mentioned the per diem. Is there a per diem difference at the two tournaments?
I mean, one of my players said it was. I don't know for sure, so I have to go ask a counterpart what that is. And if it's a difference, then we need to correct that. I know when I was at Temple, there was a difference by $10 a day, and once I found out, I went. So our players got whatever the men's players got, just because it's not right. We're under the same umbrella. We're under the same institution. It's only right. They don't, men don't do anything different than what we do. Are they revenue producing? Absolutely. So is football. So is men's basketball. Well, there's enough for everybody to go around. Just because they're the revenue producing, there are bylaws that says, Title IX. That's a law. We can't feel it. You can't make our players feel what they're feeling. You can't make them feel inferior to, their counterparts. And that's what it feels like. And I'm not talking about a weight room. Trust me, it's not an equipment thing. It's not a swag bag thing. Those are the things that were brought to light, to bring about the other stuff, from the planning, from all of it, the rollout of where we're going to have our tournaments. All of that stuff should have been rolled out at the same time. Everything should have been working in concert with men's basketball and women's basketball. What are you doing for your student athletes? What are you doing for yours? Let's collaborate. Let's make sure we're putting our best foot forward for both tournaments.
Thank you.
Greg, and then
Really
Joe.
simple. I mean, it's simple. It's like if you have a child, a boy and a girl that want to play a sport, do you pour into your son more than your daughter because he could potentially be an NBA player versus a WNBA player? That's not how parenting works. That's not how it works. If you don't have enough to provide for both, then no one can do it. Or you sit down and you talk. You say, hey, I only have enough money for one of you to go, to an AAU summer. Let's discuss it as a family. And then you come, and that's how you talk about things. You just don't say, okay, Sammy, you go. Julie, you got to stay, got to stay home. That's not how it works. And that's not how it should work.
Greg, and then Joe.
On kind of tangential related to all this, you're coming up on a week since you guys have entered the bubble. I was just kind of curious what kind of, stress or boredom or toll that's kind of taken on you guys to be isolated for that amount of time. And then kind of going off of that, was playing yesterday in kind of that massive arena with not as many, maybe not as many of the bells and whistles that you had at CLA. Was that even more different than it is normally given this time?
Let's just say when you're in this type of bubble situation, you have an appreciation for taking a 10-minute walk across the street and getting some fresh air. And you also you're just in a different environment. Testing is a pleasurable journey for us. Going across the street, seeing different people and walking through the convention center, and then waiting your 30 minutes. You're out. you're out of your four walls, and then you're walking back. Another pleasure was we got a chance to go for a walk. We actually did they got a trail, a path, not a path, a route. So we doubled the route. After we doubled the route, I was trying to see if our players were going to continue and go a third time, but they hung that left, and that was enough for them. So we have an appreciation for the small things in life that we take for granted. So that's been pretty cool. And then playing in the arena, that was a little different because it was so spaced out, and there was a sprinkle of people here or there. I think Mercer outnumbered us by a whole lot. But we're used to it at this point. Our players just want to play, and they're unbothered by being where we need to be to play. And that's the sacrifice that, most athletes have to endure at some point in their career. Something you're going to sacrifice. Family reunions, proms, stuff like that will get in the way of you and your craft when you play sports.
And it looks like we will close it out with Joe.
Coach, how would you describe the evolution of Boston's leadership? I think it was quite evident and on display yesterday when the team was needing that spark. Boston was so calm. It seemed like in that huddle, it was 29-27 going to line like, hey, guys, we're good. Follow me. Just how would you describe her evolution this season and becoming that vocal leader on the floor?
Aaliyah doesn't like losing. And she can honestly walk away from a game saying that I did everything. And that doesn't mean that she played perfectly and made all the shots and, got all the rebounds. But the energy that she puts into a game and the preparation and the duration of the 40 minutes that's being played is unmatched by any player on the collegiate level. Now you take that to the bank on both sides of the basketball. Okay, on both sides of the basketball. And you got to watch her to really understand, not just me being her coach and seeing it. I see it every day, every single day. But when you actually watch her, somebody needs to put a, what do they call that, Cam? What do you call that in TV? The camera. You just watch
like
her.
the ISO cam,
ISO
or
cam?
the one, the rover
ISO
cam.
cam.
Up
If you
top.
you put an ISO cam on her and you see what she brings to the table, you'll see why I say what I say. There isn't anybody, just like there isn't anybody that is up for National Defensive Player of the Year and National Player of the Year. There's a reason why. And I do believe she should sweep both of them. But I'm not the only vote. I don't even have a vote. So what am I talking about? I'm just politicking.
Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Other people got networks and, social media, people, the network and politic for them. It's only me.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks,
You
Dawn.
all. Thank
Thanks, Diana.
y'all.
Good one, Dawn.
All right.